All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Jess Larkin, and I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist at Cornerstone. If you are on the webinar, if you could just type in the question box and let me know that you can hear me okay. I don't have anybody from Cornerstone joining me today, so just want to make sure everything is working properly. I'm your host for your Build Your Brand series and your go-to gal for all of your marketing questions, and I want to help you build a brand that is focused on growth. Thank you, Jennifer. Today, we're going to break down step-by-step how to create a successful marketing campaign. But before we get into that, we're going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can type them in the chat box, and I will get to them at the end of the presentation, and I'm going to try to answer a few throughout the presentation as well. So go ahead and leave your questions there. My information is right there on the screen if you'd like to get in contact with me. Also, be sure to give us a follow on social media. We post industry and Cornerstone updates and information, so go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube to give us a follow. Let's get started. Your step-by-step guide to creating a successful marketing campaign. Creating a marketing campaign seems much more complicated and difficult than it really is, especially when you're a busy health insurance agent with very limited time. Today, I'm going to walk you through my simplified process for creating a campaign step by step. And as we go through that process, I really encourage you to ask any questions. And I'm also going to be asking you some questions throughout the presentation, so stay sharp, everyone. We're going to get straight into it because we have a lot to cover today. Before you get started with your campaign, there are a few questions that you want to ask. First is, who is your audience? So who are you trying to appeal to? What does your customer like? What do they want? The audience will largely influence the context of the piece, which is why targeting your advertising and marketing is so vital to a successful campaign. If you're creating a flyer for a small business owner, for example, the copy that you use for that piece is going to be way different than a piece that you write for family health insurance, for example. Therefore, you would target both audiences separately with different messaging, different designs, and different calls to action. Second question, what is the purpose of this campaign? What does the audience need? How can you help them? What is the big promise for that audience? And then third, what behavior do you want to trigger with this marketing? So when I start with a campaign, I tend to work through these questions with a brain dump on a clean Microsoft Word doc. I literally just write them out. Who is your audience? What is the purpose? And what is the behavior? And then I go through and I answer each of those questions before I do anything. Once you know your goals and your audience for the campaign and who you're trying to target, you can decide which strategies will make the most sense for your message. Some strategies are going to work better for certain audiences than for others. So for example, Facebook is going to be way more effective for individuals and families than for businesses. So with our audience and purpose in mind, let's decide on a few different strategies that you can use. And as I go through these strategies, let me know in the question box which strategies you currently use and whether or not they really work for you. So go ahead and write that in the chat box. Which strategies you currently use and how well they work for you right now. So on the digital side, we have all the basics. We have social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. We have video and webinars, which is definitely more important than it used to be. In my most recent webinar, I discussed how Gen Z tends to prefer more short-form video content and millennials tend to prefer more long-form video content. We have email. Email marketing has been a helpful tool for a while now, and it's still relevant today. Google ads or Facebook ads, things like that. Those are definitely worth trying. You can get some decent impressions for it and a high click-through rate. But I do recommend that you work with an expert who knows what they're doing with that stuff, just to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck, because Google ads can be expensive. I would spend like a minimum of maybe $1,000 a month on Google ads if you're going to do it. And then landing pages, things that you put together for specific campaigns so that you can track your conversions from a specific marketing piece. So for example, if you create a postcard and then you say, you can contact us at www.crnstone.com/ we'll say the cash incentive program. Having that landing page gives you an idea of who from the postcard actually responded, and helps you kind of track the success of that campaign. So landing pages can be really, really helpful for that. And then, of course, on the print side, you have flyers, you have postcards, letters, and obviously kind of swag materials that you might bring to like an expo or a meeting of some sort. So you could do tote bags, you could do pens, pencils, really anything that you'd like that has your branding on it. That would be considered print marketing, but more in like a grassroots sense. And of course, there's far more options for strategies than this, but these are kind of like the basic ones that I always think about. When creating a campaign, it's also important to consider inbound rather than outbound marketing. So take a minute to think about all the random spam calls that you get throughout the day. Perhaps you received a call letting you know that you quote unquote won a cruise while you were trying to enjoy dinner with your family, or maybe a random number interrupted a meeting with a client. Let's also think about the email spam that you receive on a daily basis and the television ads that you have to get through before going back to enjoying your favorite shows. These advertisements and strategies are known as outbound marketing. With outbound marketing, the goal of the advertisement is to find the customer rather than letting the customer find you, which is the goal of inbound marketing. Outbound marketing examples include more traditional forms of marketing and advertising, such as TV commercials, radio ads, print advertisements, so like newspaper ads, magazine ads, flyers, catalogs, things like that, trade shows, outbound sales calls, so like cold calls, and email spam. Now, not all outbound marketing is bad. In fact, many have found success with outbound marketing strategies like TV commercials, radio ads, print advertisements, and more. However, research shows that the most prevalent issues with outbound marketing include difficulty tracking ROI, increasing blocking techniques, and the high cost of advertisements for low returns. According to HubSpot, your average human today is inundated with more than 2,000 outbound marketing interruptions per day, and is figuring out more and more creative ways to block them out. So think caller ID, spam filtering, anything that allows you to just skip an ad. Inbound marketing, on the other hand, attracts prospective clients with content that is valuable to them personally. So while you initiate the conversation with outbound marketing, inbound marketing enables the customers to find you. So think digital IP targeting, think Facebook advertising. The idea of inbound marketing is that it promotes products that solve problems that the prospects you're targeting already have. They've already searched the web looking for insurance, so you follow up with an advertisement about your own services. They've clicked on your Facebook ad, so you can follow up with email marketing. The client comes to you to provide a solution to their needs. This means creating relationships instead of sales and converting a lead into an advocate instead of just a client. Examples of inbound marketing might include blog posts, social media, infographics, white papers, email newsletters, and other content that people actually want to read. And would you believe me if I told you that these strategies are far cheaper than the outbound strategies that you might be trying today? Basically, if we were to sum it all up into one small little sentence, inbound marketing relies on anticipating needs and opening communication channels for those prospects to contact you. So at this point, I've probably taken what you know about marketing and kind of flipped it on its head. No print advertisements, no radio ads. Well, like I said, those strategies aren't inherently bad, and they may be successful for you, but the research shows that inbound marketing strategies are going to be more worth your time and money because they're more intentional. And I say all this because I don't want us to forget the power of multiple touch points. You need a little bit of both to create a successful marketing campaign. It takes between 7 to 13 touch points to generate a lead. That means that your prospect sees your ad and your information 7 to 13 times before they get in contact with you. You can still focus on inbound strategy while investing in print advertising. So a little bit of both. For example, in terms of inbound marketing, if you decide to run a Facebook ad, you can also send an email campaign to a prospect list that's generated from that ad, and then follow up with a postcard mailer. Multiple touch points still applies to inbound marketing. So now we're going to break down inbound marketing a bit more by looking at the methodology behind that strategy. And I promise this is important when coming up with the strategies that you want to use for your campaign. According to HubSpot, there is an inbound methodology to keep in mind as you're attempting to create lasting connections with your prospects. So remember, we're looking for more of like an advocate, not just a sale. That methodology includes attracting, engaging, and delighting. This methodology brings your prospects on a customer journey from stranger to prospect to customer to promoter. First within that methodology is attract. The key to successful inbound marketing, any inbound marketing strategy, is attracting the right people. You want the leads that come to your site to be your future happy customers. To attract prospects to your site, you want to ensure that you are providing valuable and relevant content, whether in the form of a blog post, maybe it's an engaging Facebook page, a consistent newsletter, etc. Give them something worth coming back for. So think Progressive has flow, Allstate has mayhem. Cornerstone, we have a consistent blog, and we have the Monday Minute. How are you attracting your clients? In health insurance, that often means increasing your brand awareness so that when it comes time for someone to purchase a new health insurance plan, you're the brand that they think of first. And that's kind of the strange thing with health insurance, is that you could market to somebody all year round, but the need for health insurance is pretty, it's very specific. People don't need health insurance year round. People are going to need it, when they lose their job, when they get married, things like that, when they hit that qualifying event. So you do have to work on timing a little bit, but that makes brand awareness all the more important instead of just the sale. Next in the methodology is engage. To engage your prospects means to create relationships using their preferred channels, whether that is maybe a live chat option on your site for a quick problem resolution, or maybe it's like a contact or request for more information form, email, things like that. Inbound marketing requires more than just a blog post or a social media post. You also need to point your prospects in the right direction to get in contact with you when they're ready to find a solution to the problem. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but that's when a call to action comes in. The last step in the methodology is delight, which means empowering your clients to find success with their purchases. In terms of marketing strategy, this means maybe incorporating survey, reviews, continued email marketing, etc. What can you do better to make their experience with your business even more positive than when it started? Well, good ideas go straight to the source. So put together a Google My Business profile and ask for clients to leave reviews, send out a survey to new clients to see what they thought of the onboarding process, etc. So you kind of see how this methodology flows very seamlessly together. You attract strangers and then you turn them into prospects with engaging content, and then you delight them as your customers, and then they want to promote and they want to tell other people about your business. It's kind of this circle from stranger to promoter, as you can see on the right hand side. So all this to say that all of your strategies that you decide to choose for your marketing campaign should work seamlessly together within that kind of methodology of how can I gain the prospect and convert them into an actual customer. So you want to keep that in mind. But now that we've decided on our strategy, so maybe we've decided to do a flyer and maybe a social media or like a Facebook ad, and a landing page, something. We've created the campaign that we want to do based on who our audience is. We have to decide what we actually need for that campaign. And this is a great time to list out all of the creative assets that you're going to need. So do you need a script if you're creating a video? Do you need some content for your landing page? Do you need some images? What do you need to make this campaign successful? So for instance, if you're creating a Facebook ad, you're going to need an image at a specific size, and you're going to need some text for that ad, and you're also probably going to need some sort of link that people can go to in order to contact you. So like a landing page. We also want to consider if we're going to do any A/B testing for our campaign. A/B testing is also known as split testing, and it's one of the techniques used to test and monitor the conversion performance of different ads. So this means you show two different variants of the same ad to different segments of your audience at the same time, and you compare which of those drives more conversions. So this means putting together content for two different ads, sending them off each to half of your distribution list, and then evaluating which message performs better. With that information, you can then tailor your messages more properly in the future. So let's say, for example, you're sending out an email newsletter. If you send out a monthly newsletter to your clients, you can split your distribution list in half and send out the newsletter with two different subject lines. And then you can compare how well each newsletter does based on the subject line. And you can determine based on the open rates, the clicks and interactions, which newsletter had the most successful open rate, so that you can emulate that subject line in the future. So if we want to do split testing with our campaign, basically what that means is that we're going to need to perhaps double our assets. In our example with a Facebook ad, if you want to do A/B testing with an ad, maybe you try a different image for each ad, maybe you try different copy for each ad. You kind of want to keep some of them similar with the same kind of promises and calls to action, just so that you can get a good comparison of the two. But it is a choice, especially if you're getting started with marketing and you're not really sure what your audience is looking for yet. Next, we're going to talk about creating your content and your copy. So I have a quick question for everybody to answer in the chat. I'm very curious. How many of you are comfortable with writing your own copy for your ads? Is this something that comes easy to you, or is this like something that you absolutely dread? So we have our campaign outlined, and now it's time to come up with our actual content. I would recommend creating your content in a blank Microsoft Word document, because it's going to help you track your word count, review your grammar, and give you an unfiltered view of your marketing before you bring it over to the creative side. So if I have multiple ads to create, I like to start with the ad that's going to require the most content. And maybe the case of if we're doing a landing page, a Facebook page, or a Facebook post and a flyer, I would start with the content of either that landing page or that flyer, because it's going to have the most copy in comparison to that ad. So starting with the longer content means that the smaller pieces are going to be easier, because you can copy and paste and simplify the content that you've created. But at least you have that general piece that has everything that you'd like to communicate on it. I know that I stress this in a lot of my webinars, but that's only because it's really, really important. Good copywriting is clear and it's concise. Most times, the most effective copy is the most succinct and quote unquote down to earth. You don't need to include every small detail about your business on an ad to make a difference to your audience. You want your copy to answer the question, what's in it for me? So consider yourself as a consumer. You know that there's some marketing out there that makes you roll your eyes and raise your eyebrow. A lot of the stuff that we were talking about with those outbound marketing strategies. So maybe you see advertisements that say, get flat abs easy for the low price of $12.99 per month. No more wrinkles in just 2 months. Never have to do the dishes again. Whatever buzzwords they want to use to grab your attention, but it's the wrong kind of attention. And unfortunately, health insurance is going to be one of those products and services that consumers are already probably a little bit suspicious of. But here's the secret that many marketers don't want to consider. You don't need buzzwords and explosive clickbait to make a good ad. You don't need those starbursts and the outstanding claims. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. You need intentional copy that speaks to your strengths and the why power of your business. That's where you can draw in the skeptics who will favor that content over the car salesman content any day. So trust the value of your business and include it throughout the customer journey. So from sales to retention, what does it, what do you have to offer, and what's in it for your customer? And when you finish writing your ad, look back at it and think, if I were just finding out about this business for the first time, what would I think about them? When you're creating your copy, there are a number of elements to consider. So the ABCs of copywriting, if you will. Note, you're going to notice that a lot of the basics of copywriting often overlap with the basics of sales. First is attention. Good copy grabs the reader's attention through strong headlines or hooks. 80% of people will not read past the headline, and you only have 5 seconds to convince an audience to keep reading. So what can you communicate in those 5 seconds that's going to pique their curiosity? This is where that inverted triangle comes into play. It's a writing format that places the most important information at the top of the piece that you're writing. This format is commonly used in like news articles, with the lead of the article starting at the top of the information following it. The lead, or in this case, the attention, includes the most important information that answers those 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. What is the most important information that the audience needs to know about? Once you have their attention with the hook and you've created some urgency, you can then build their curiosity. You want your audience to say, okay, so what's next? And with that, you need to consider the customer journey. Where are they at in the sales process now? What is the simplest, most effective way to get their questions and their curiosity fulfilled by your product and service? Next is the big promise, which for the audience means what's in it for me, like I said before. Most of you are salespeople, so you know the value of the selling process is the relationship that you build with your client, not your product or service. Your audience is way more interested in the why. So what is that big promise that you offer upfront, and how is it given? As you consider that big promise, it's important to keep in mind the difference between features and benefits. Features describe what the product does, which sets it apart from the competition. Benefits, however, describe how the product can help the audience. For marketing messages, it's typically better to go with benefits, because benefits are what drives a customer to purchase. So again, benefits describe how the product can help the audience, and features describe what the product does. So how can you offer, So you can offer health insurance to your customer. Okay, so they understand that, but why should they care? Is it going to help their family stay healthy? Is it going to help them with their budget? Is it going to provide incentive for their employees? Figuring out the benefits of your services will help you create compelling copy that leads to conversions. Finally, your copy needs a strong call to action, which is something that I mentioned a little bit earlier, which encourages your audience to take action after you've hooked them onto your service. This could be encouraging them to call you or send you an email, fill out a form. However, it's vitally important that you only ask your prospect to do one thing, not multiple. You don't want to leave any room for confusion, because that's when they walk away and you lose your conversion. So you want to make your call to action clear, concise, and easy to spot within your copywriting. Now, with all this in mind, let's take a look at this flyer that is actually available for all of you on the Marketing Hub, which is on the Resource Center. I update it with customizable flyers that you guys can use at any time. It's just on the Marketing Hub. You can just download it right there. It uses the program called Canva, which is totally free. And all you have to do is create a login, and you are able to create a bunch of things. If you're doing your marketing in-house and you're totally responsible for it, highly recommend Canva. It helps you format things. It provides different photos and images that you can use, different fonts, things like that. Highly, highly recommend. So our attention grabbing headline in this case is protecting the ones you love, with a big promise of why do I even need health insurance, which pretty subtly indicates that health insurance is a necessity for the health of your family. Then at the bottom, we have our call to action where it says, our goal is to help protect you and your family. Contact us today for a quote. So if I want to create a social media post from this content, I can take that first paragraph and the call to action and just copy and paste that into a Facebook ad. That's a real secret from your neighborhood health insurance marketer, is that I just take a lot of that long form content and then I dwindle it down by copying and pasting the most important information for smaller content. Like I said, once you have your long form content, it becomes very versatile for those smaller applications. So once that content is created, you can get right into the creative. There are a number of basic copy and design principles that you want to keep in mind when putting together your marketing. So whether it's flyers, videos, logos, postcards, etc., considering the design process, which identifies a problem, provides a creative solution, refines that solution, can help you create a marketing piece that is valuable for your client or your prospect. So when designing marketing materials for Cornerstone, there are a number of design rules that I keep in mind for a more well thought out and cohesive brand. You may have noticed that all of our marketing uses the same color palette. It has the same kind of imagery and it's all laid out in a very specific way. This is specifically done to make sure our brand looks professional and easily recognizable in the industry. And I do that with a couple of rules. That first rule is a consistent color palette. Consistency is key with design. When you determine your color palette for your brand, it's important not to stray from those colors. The colors you choose are going to help you stand out in a crowded market and help your clients and prospects remember your brand. Inconsistency can make clients think that your brand is maybe unprofessional, disorganized, and having a consistent color palette can massively increase your brand identification, which is ultimately what's going to help boost sales and engagement. Like I said, with health insurance, the name of the game really is brand awareness over sales. Rule number 2, easy to read and professional typography. One of the most damaging design no-nos are the fonts that you decide to use for your brand. There are thousands of fonts available online, from fonts that are very simple and beautiful to those that are very intentionally funky and are only used for very specific applications. So when you create your brand, you want to consider using common fonts that are easy to read, like Sophia Pro, or if you are using like a Microsoft Word document, maybe Segoy UI or Calibri, Arial, things that you know of that are very easy to use. And as with your color palette, you want to keep those fonts consistent throughout your branding. I would suggest finding a good font for your headers and then maybe a good font for your body paragraphs. You don't want to use fonts that are very difficult to read and over the top. They may look fun, but in practice, they're very ineffective. And we also want to consider the layout of the fonts, because the words need to be equally spaced out and similarly sized to get read easily. You want to make sure that your fonts work well together. And when you're adding copy to your marketing, you want to keep in mind the size of the font, the type of font, the spacing of the font, and the layout for the best readability. The main goal is to find one that's easy to read. So as you can see on the flyer that I created, I have very distinguished heading text, subheading text, and then call to action text. And then the body paragraph is easily distinguishable from paragraph to paragraph. That's kind of what I mean when it comes to cohesion and finding fonts that work well and read well. Rule 3 is simplicity. Like I said, with your content, you want to keep it simple. I'll say it over and over again. There's nothing more jarring than coming across a marketing piece with 6 starbursts, 10 different colors, text that's covering the whole piece, overused calls to action. So when designing your pieces, keep it as simple as possible. As we mentioned in the design process, identify the problem, create a solution, and include a call to action. So my basic format whenever I'm creating a flyer, for instance, is to do image, heading, copy. And then at the bottom, I'll include my logo and then the contact information that people can use to get in contact with us. But I always tend to stick with that format. One, because having a template makes it easier and quicker to create that stuff. And two, just because it looks nice and it draws the eye where I need it to go. Your eye automatically goes to the image first, and then it goes to the header, and then it continues downward into a little bit of a funnel. And then rule number 4 is high-res visuals. We're going to refrain from using blurry and restricted images in your marketing materials, which means you can't just go to Google Images and copy what you see from there. That's not allowed. Not only is it illegal, unless that content is very specifically labeled with usage rights that allow you to use that image in commercial settings, but it often yields very low res images that make your content look unprofessional. Instead, consider using stock images from sites like Shutterstock or Pexels or Getty Images that provide high-res photos that you can use, like the one that you see on the screen right now. All right, that's your creative. And last but not least is your analysis. Once your campaign is launched, you want to make sure that it's leading to conversions and sales. So you want to track the success of the campaign to figure out if things are actually working the way that you anticipate, especially if you're doing A/B testing and you want to check which of those pieces was the most successful. One way that you can track the success of your campaigns is by creating a report that you can revisit every once in a while to measure your marketing analytics. This is where you might track your email analytics, so like your open rates, your click rates, or your website traffic, so your bounces, your website visits, and maybe track how many leads you receive directly from a specific campaign. So if you get on a call with a client who's just joining, you can ask them, how did you hear about us? And it'll be able to help you determine if your marketing pieces have been successful. And don't worry, I've put together an analytic tracker template for you, and I'm going to include that in the email that's following this webinar. You can kind of see a little bit on this screen here. It'll help you track your email analytics, your website analytics, social media, and then the leads that you've generated from there. What's more important than tracking the analytics is actually reflecting on them. Don't just review the analytics and then never take action. If you notice your email open rate is dipping, how can you alter the message to encourage more engagement? If you notice your Facebook likes have plateaued, how can you refresh your post to make the page more interesting? If you're looking to grow your business in 2023, then those analytics are lifelines, and you don't want to forget to use them and take action. All right, and that's creating a marketing campaign. We took it from actually brainstorming who our audience is and the purpose of it, to choosing which strategies we'd like to use, which considers the customer journey and which strategies need to work together in order to get our audience through that methodology, and then actually creating the content and designing it and then analyzing it once it is released. Now, I know a lot of you probably have to do your own marketing, so I am going to leave the webinar open for a little bit to take any questions that you might have that I can help you out with. I can answer anything that you have about marketing in general, Google ads, Facebook ads, websites, things like that. So I'm going to leave the chat open for a little bit. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box and I will get to those soon. For now, I'm going to show you where the Marketing Hub is on the Resource Center. So if you go to www.crnstone.com and you have a Resource Center login, so if you are a Cornerstone broker, you have the opportunity to log into the Resource Center. All you have to do is register online. you would just go to the Cornerstone website, under Resource Center, click Login, and then it says at the bottom here, New User, click here to register. So all you would do is fill that out, and then I can get you set up right away. So I'm just going to log into the Resource Center here. Once you are logged in, you can click on Resource Center at the top. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see that there is a marketing hub available, as well as a bunch of other things available in our Resource Center if you're interested. So we have our new group quoting template. We have client referral forms, benefit limits guides, individual maps, carrier bonuses, things like that. So definitely check it out. So with the marketing hub, all you do is click check it out at the bottom here, and you will have access to the marketing hub. So we have a lot of stuff here. If you are in employee benefits, you can download this group benefit booklet template, where you can add your logo and change the colors and the fonts and everything, but the basic layout is ready for you. So we can actually take a look at that. If you just click download, it'll take you to Canva, where all you have to do is set up a Canva account. It's free, very, very quick and simple. Just use your email, and then you just click use template at the bottom here. And just like that, you got your benefits guide with a bunch of different pages like qualifying events, health insurance terms, actual costs of the services for health plans, what is an HSA, things like that. So if maybe EB3 is not your jam, then this is an option as well. But you are able to change the fonts, you're able to change the images, add your logos, things like that. So I highly recommend taking advantage of the marketing hub. All right, looks like we do have a question. If we have a Facebook account, how should the comment section be handled in efforts to monitor or prevent negative comments? How do most companies handle this? That's a great question. With social media, you do unfortunately run the risk of dealing with negative comments. I know, especially in the individual space, whenever we've done marketing, we'll get comments that say, you know, I hate Obama, I don't want Obamacare, whatever, just a misunderstanding of what we're looking at here. The problem is that if you continually delete comments, you might be seen as not authentic. So my preference would be in those cases to reach out and reply to the comments that matter, saying, you know, I'd be happy to talk with you about this if you want to give me a call, or in the case if somebody says, you know, Obamacare, whatever, you can say, did you know that, you know, the ACA and Obamacare are the same thing, and this is what this means. Just kind of go at it with a curiosity rather than just deleting everything. Now, if there are things that are just inappropriate that do not align with the values of your company, I would delete those. Sometimes you get people who are spamming, or people who just leave terrible, terrible things. I would actually delete those. But if they just disagree with something that you're saying, I wouldn't delete those comments. I hope that answers your question. If we have any other questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat box. I'm just going to keep it open for a couple more minutes here. All right, awesome. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope that this was helpful for you, especially if you are not somebody who knows kind of the basics of marketing, and you have to handle it on yourselves. I know that by yourselves, I know that can be scary and a little intimidating. So hopefully this helped. If you have any questions ever about your marketing, please know that I'm available. I'm happy to answer your questions and walk you through, maybe brainstorm with you on things that you can do. You can give me a call or send me an email. My information is right there on the screen, and maybe we can set up a little bit of an audit of your marketing. So feel free to reach out at any time. That's what Cornerstone is all for. We want to help you guys build your business. Thank you all for joining today. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you more about our marketing in 2023. Everybody have a great day.